Hi guys, welcome back. Today's conversation, do you know what it is?
Controversial.
I love it. And viral.
Yes, exactly.
Controversy that goes viral. And actually the best part about this one is it's actually about somebody in our group. They posted something in our group that went viral. And I was like, you know what? We need to talk about this because you don't get to see it often. I think some people go viral once they hit that point where that one thing goes viral and then they usually go viral. In this case, because it happened in the group, doesn't necessarily mean she went viral. Last time I talked to her, she said she wasn't getting a lot of stuff like to like her personal spaces. It was all being like shared and or in the group.
Yeah.
She eventually had to turn off commenting because there was such a split on love versus hate, if you will. So not a lot of people go viral. And I think that's what everybody strives for.
Yes.
But I think virality is always accidental.
Correct. Yeah.
It is always accidental. And before we get into the actual post of what happened, when I was doing the lives before, I did a live with underwater photographer. Why is his name is Brett Stanley. And one of the questions that I asked him, I was like, how did you get here? Everybody knows who he is in the underwater world because he's at a point where his name is just so synonymous with the niche. And he went viral. He accidentally went viral. He was shooting underwater, which is his favorite thing to do. He said he will never shoot on dry land unless he absolutely positively has to, and then he still doesn't want to do it. So he was doing what he loved. He was, taking video and photo and all that sort of fun stuff. And he posted a video about shooting pole dancers underwater. Now, there was nothing risque really about it. Everybody was still clothed, but because it was something that people hadn't seen, the news media outlets got a hold of it, and then he woke up one morning and his post was viral.
Wow.
So that's so very normal for how most people go viral, is it's just on accident or happenstance, which is what happened to Cassie. Her name is Catherine, but we refer to her as Cassie because that's her nickname.
Mm-hmm.
So when Cassie went viral, she had no intention of going viral. I started looking at the numbers in the comments and I'm like, that's moving a lot. And when you run a group, you get to see all the numbers. When you're in the group, you see some of the numbers, but you don't get to see all of them.
Yeah, I see the likes, the comments, and the shares, but I don't actually get to see the views.
So on my screen right now, and I should be sharing the screen with you at this point, this post was posted January 18th, and we're at February 4th. It has finally slowed down. There's getting traction, but it has finally slowed down. I thought it was going to hit 1 million at one point, but she's up to 877,000 views of this post. And when I first realized how many she was getting, I was just sending her screenshots daily just so that she could know what was going on because she doesn't get to see the numbers. And one, she was surprised by it, but two, we didn't have to, but we had the conversation about why did it go viral? And I honestly think she did just the right amount of balance between something that there's really nothing wrong with and something that is controversial at the same time. So as you can see from the screen, her and Anastasia, the model that she worked with, they had always wanted to utilize an octopus for one of their shoots. And actually, you have a tentacle or something that runs around here, right? Mm-hmm. I remember one of the times that we were here, we were using the winch, which there's a winch above us that you can't see. We were using the winch, and I think you had like a plastic basket, like a seated basket or whatever was attached. And the tentacle was in it. And we had that conversation. So I will come back to the update, but you guys can see it on the screen. Got new GVM RGB LED lights from winning a photography contest. So I put them to work. For the backdrop photos, it was actually a brown vintage style, but I put the LEDs behind the backdrop to shine some blue light through, and somehow it worked pretty perfectly. And she's right. If she had brown, she definitely made it blue. Mm-hmm. Anastasia May and I had been wanting to do an octopus shoot for so long, and we finally made it happen. I had tried looking around various markets like H Mart to find an octopi, but could only find tiny little baby ones. So I ordered a non-alive 3-pound octopus off of Gold Belly. Shipping was expensive, but it was so worth it. I used both my 40 millimeter and my 14 millimeter during this shoot. So that as it stands, like the actual, like, description of, what she's showing is very straight to the point. She was, proud of the fact that she won these lights. She got to play with them. They got to do something fun. And so even my response to this post was, oh, glad you guys finally got to do this. What did you think about your new lights? Because her lights, even though the photos were there, the post was about these lights that she won from winning a contest. Nobody talked about the lights unless they were in the DMV group.
Exactly.
If they were in the DMV group, they asked about the lights. And then it went to hell in a handbasket from there. So everybody in the group was actually very supportive, which I really appreciated. Everybody was like, oh my God, that's great that you guys got to do that. This is dope. This is, hot as F, all that sort of stuff. So as you go through the comments, it eventually starts to go in this downward direction of angry people that think it was horrible that she used a dead animal. Now, we don't know how this animal died. And no, I don't think PETA needs to be involved. I find it so interesting that she managed to unintentionally create a divided sense of people just from her photos. And we're going to look at the photos here real quick. All right. So this photo, nothing wrong with this photo. Now, this is not my favorite one out of the set, but this is one where you've got a little bit of the octopus, you've got water, you've got Anastasia's such a great model that, she can make anything look attractive. This one just feels like campy fun for the sake of campy fun. Yeah, I like it.
Which is both of them together.
Exactly.
Anyway, so
exactly. Well, and let's also tie in the fact that we do realize that there is a part of the spicy world where this is a big deal. And the whole tentacle thing. And that's kind of a play off of it as well, too, which was one of the reasons that both of them decided that, they just wanted to have fun with the concept. And, again, this one, there's still nothing overly wrong with any of these shots. It just happens to be something that used to be alive that's no longer alive. And that's what everybody had a problem with. Now, this one, no, it's not this one. This one's still a good shot, but it's still not my favorite one yet. And my favorite one is the one that she caught the most amount of shit over, which is this one. This one is just suggestive enough, but everything's covered. It's suggestive. It leads into the spicy side of the content, but it is a great shot. And this is my favorite one. I think this is the best one out of the entire set. Now, let's also talk about the fact, and I might need to pull this one up and maybe I'll pull it up separately. They had just got done posting images from a shoot where they used a snake. Nobody gave her shit for using a snake, did they?
No.
Why was the one okay? Because they worked with alive snakes that they could have been harmed by, and everybody thought that was amazing. The dimension of Anastasia in the back here, and then you've got the snake coming out away from Anastasia. So the snake is in focus. She's in that depth of field blur. And it is an amazing fucking shot. And that was not what caught on. It was the fact that this became controversial for a lot of people because it bumped up against things that they're uncomfortable with.
Exactly.
And that's when you've done something with art.
It's like the old PETA ad that had a row of animals and it says, where does the line stop?
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of people who have spray painted between the cow and the horse or whatever.
Okay.
But, it's a cultural thing.
Sure.
I was in Iceland and I ate horse. Mm-hmm. So then what's the next part after that?
Yeah. Yeah. But that's it. So I think we're always going to be in a position where there's, people who love certain things and people who hate certain things because we're all individuals. And everybody's life experience is different. If she had gone, we went out, we found this octopus, we boiled it, and then we used it, I could see people being a little bit more upset over that because you intentionally went out of your way to end this, octopus's life. But we eat meat every day.
Exactly.
This is a delicacy in some areas. Mm-hmm. So is it only an issue because it's on a nude body? And I think that's really what the reality of it is the fact that there is a sexual component, a seductive component to this. Mm-hmm. What are you finding on the Gold Belly?
So I have never been to Gold Belly, so I went, and good for you, Cassie, for spending the money for this. This is art for the sake of art.
Yep.
For doing a couple shots for the gram.
Yeah.
Gotta love it, but it shows creativity and an out of the box thinking that fuck all those people.
Fuck the haters.
Exactly.
Now her update, because Cassie and I talked about this a lot, and we're going to get into the numbers on this, on how quickly it went viral. Our update was, thank you to all my haters. You're rude. Gross ignorance nourishes me and boosts this post so even more people get to see it. So thank you. She eventually turned off the comments, and when she turned off the comments was when she still kept going up, but it started to be a little bit more linear and a little bit more slow on the upward take. I think if she had left the comments on, I think it would probably still be going. I'm actually really surprised that it hasn't hit 1 million. I figured that's probably where it would get. But the numbers are the insight numbers on it are a little convoluted, because there's one space within here I can look that it says it was put in front of like 979,000 people, but it says the post reach was only 877,000. I don't know what that means. I hate looking at the analytics stuff on this stuff because sometimes it makes sense and sometimes it doesn't. Now, she had 146 comments in total, but 1,000 people shared this post. And it was a mix. I went and I looked because I was able to look at some of the shares, and actually I might even be able to bring it up now. It was very much a mix on how people reacted and responded. Average unmalanted activities. Some people just shared it for the sake of sharing it. Somebody had a problem with the fact that bragging about using a dead animal to make not safe for work content. This is perfect for someone. She ate. I don't care. I don't exactly know what that means. Like,
I'm not down with the lingo.
That one may be like, like she, like one, I don't know. Let's see, what else do we have here? Imagine being the octopus that died and they used you for this. They don't know. The octopus doesn't know. And maybe it got eaten later. I don't know. Somebody said this seems familiar. And then there's like a bunch of references. I guess it looks like to a movie of some sort. Oh, this one. Putting a dead octopus on your vag is actually disgusting. In colorful language. But there were a couple on here, and I think because it's been shared so many times, I can't get to what I want to get to. Like somebody said, should I also cover myself with a dead creature and do a photo shoot, inspo everywhere? So there were some people that when they posted, they're like, oh my God, I want to do this. I've been inspired. Like this person here, Danielle McClure, tagged somebody and said, can we do something like this? So it wasn't only negative. It wasn't ill received by everyone, but it was such a split that people were in like shock and awe over the fact that it was such a thing. And that's what makes things go viral. You have to divide people essentially, or you have to do something so exceptional that everybody loves it or everybody hates it. And unfortunately, I think a lot of times with the internet, people do things specifically for people to hate it.
Yes.
So that they can get the virality. I never say that right. Virality? I'm done.
Sounds right.
Something like that. Yeah. You get it. I think a lot of people will go that route so that they can get in front of enough people, and then whatever their marketing or their message is, that's the next thing that they go to. But I was really impressed with the fact that the group was pretty supportive of it, because I don't think the negative stuff came from the group. I think it came from the visitors that came into the group because the post got put in front of them.
Exactly. And to go back to the group where Dawn said that it was 800,000, 900,000 views, but at the time the group was only
4.8.
4,800 people.
Mm-hmm.
It has now jumped 1,000 people, which is great for the group because that means growth.
Mm-hmm.
And we can hopefully see more posting, more everything.
Yeah.
Actually, I was looking earlier for this when we were kind of doing some research, and Madonna made a quote, and she says, "I think art should be controversial. It should make people think."
Absolutely.
And I think that's such a great way to think about things.
Absolutely. Well, because I was doing some research before we did the podcast, and there was, let me see if I can pull this one up. There's a photographer that I came across when I was doing my research called Tyler Shields. And the last podcast that we just recorded, and you guys should have seen it already because I think it's going to be the first one. The last one that we recorded, we were talking about the fact of, photographers and models getting paid. And when I came across this particular photographer, I was looking for a particular photo because it would have been something that would have been controversial, but the elite would love it. And I think that's a big part of, kind of deciding who you are as a photographer sometimes. This particular photographer, you can only buy his work in a gallery. You're not buying a print offline. You're not buying it on a hoodie. It's not that consumable a route. The people with that disposable income are the people that are buying it, and they're buying it because they can relate to it. And there was one in particular, and he's got kind of like a set of things. There was one in particular that I was like, oh, that would be the type of stuff like that I would even do. Because it goes back to, and it was mentioned in the last podcast, it goes back to ugly pretty. There is an underbelly of ugliness in the world that we think we want to be in when it comes to the photography and art, that there's very much an ugly underbelly, and we talk about it all the time. And one of the abbreviations we use all the time is GWC. Now, when I talk about GWCs, I try to keep it balanced, but the reality is we refer to a GWC as a guy with a camera. Now, sure, there could be a girl or a gal with a camera that's inappropriate, just like the guys are. I'm going to be real honest with you, I haven't heard of one yet.
No, okay. Definitely not.
I was going to say, you've been around a lot longer, maybe you've heard one, but
no.
I think there's also a little bit more to that too, and maybe that's another podcast topic, because men and women view certain situations differently. I think that's why you don't hear about, a female necessarily being like a GWC versus what you get with men.
Yes.
And I'm not saying all men. Don't come at me in the comments anywhere. I'm not saying all men. It's just something that we have to deal with. And you as well. You have to deal with it running a studio.
Oh, yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. There's always the risk.
Well, and then there's the whole potential of like guilty by association as well, too.
Correct.
That's a whole other topic and conversation. All right. So this is Tyler Shields. So if you're listening to me, I'm sorry you can't see it. Find it on YouTube or Spotify. You'll be able to see it. All right. And that's if it will record. Why are you being difficult? I love technology, but it drives me crazy. Mm-hmm. Here we go. And get that up. All right. So this was the photo that I came across initially that really kind of like stood out to me, because yes, it says Coca-Cola. But the reality of it being in her nose says so much about the industry and the ugly side of the industry and what happens to a lot of people. Now, let's not overlook this price point, because the average photographer, especially the hobby photographer that's trying to be an artistic photographer or just a photographer in general, is not making this money. Their art is not only in a gallery. You have to put in a lot of work and know the right people to be surviving that way. The other thing is, and this is something that most people I don't think realize, there are some photographers that, they want to be in a gallery. I do not want to be in a gallery.
No.
I would do a gallery showing that I control, but I would not want my work in a gallery, because that $5,000 is not going to the artist. Only a portion of that is going to the artist. And that was why I was surprised that his stuff was only in a gallery. But you also have to think about a marketing strategy from that standpoint too. If you are marketing to the upper echelon that has expendable money, they want to buy it from the gallery. They're not trying to buy it from your website. They're not necessarily trying to book you from your website. Like, that's actually something we could probably talk about too. When I was doing some of this research initially, what's the word I'm looking for? I was looking at some of the photographer names that I know, like I was looking at their websites, because we talk very often about marketing and what that looks like. And most of the photographers that reach a point where they're like celebrity photographers, you are not getting pricing on their website. You are contacting them to have a conversation about what you want, and then they will give you pricing for what that's going to cost you. But that's because they've done the work. They've been in the industry long enough to know what they can get away with charging. Because if you're doing commercial work where it's licensed stuff and they're going to be using it for like nationwide promotion, that's thousands of dollars for that licensing. And that's one of those things that's hard to maneuver, though. Like that price, once you hit that pricing point, that's really hard to figure out. Are you charging them $10,000, $50,000? Like, is it a national campaign?
And at that point, you have an agent.
Yeah.
I mean, there's someone behind the scenes who is a legal team to be able to deal with that. And there's a quote or an expression that if you have to ask, you can't afford it.
Yeah.
And that's where some of those people come into play, because that is something that, you're at that level.
Yeah, absolutely. Back to the whole like viral part too. I think it's very rare. Hi. You should come say hi since you walked in. It's totally going in the behind the scenes, Mama Triggs. So just in case you don't know, Mama Triggs walked in. but she's not willing to come on camera, but she's here and she's watching all of you. So going back to the viral part of, how this works, it's very rare that anybody ever goes viral. I think everybody's striving for it, but you really don't know what's going to appeal to people until it appeals to people. It might appeal to you and nobody ever looks at it or ever cares about it or ever comments on it. You might not even care about what you posted, and then somebody takes off and runs with it. Not everybody's going to make it there, and I think that's what everybody's striving for.
And it is the organic thing that you don't know if it's coming or not. Perfect situation. A photographer friend of mine, we were in North Carolina with 2 models, and he shot a video of them buying hair clips in Target. And within a matter of weeks, it was at 7-8 million views, shared on countless platforms on Instagram. But it was just 2 girls standing in an island Target buying hair clips.
So crazy to me.
It's like, and it is. It's that the right time, the right place, and the right person saw it to start that ball rolling.
Well, I have people that talk to me about like video and stuff. And video is my least favorite thing to deal with. Like the editing for video is very intricate for me. So it feels very time consuming and sometimes a little overwhelming to try to think of like transitions and how to keep people engaged and all that sort of stuff. But when people ask me about stuff like that, I have a tendency to be a little too much of a perfectionist with things. So I feel like I have to think everything through before I run with it. And I think what I realized at like year 2 was it didn't matter. It does to an extent. Like you still want something that, is somewhat visually appealing, but I have found most of like my talking videos, that's what most people are paying attention to. Or my adventure style stuff, because I do the action photography and stuff too. That's the stuff that people are paying attention to, but not always like if I'm doing an edit or if I'm actually talking about, different skills and things that you can do. Some people are interested in that, but they're more interested in one-on-one.
Yes.
The people that want that actual skill set, they would rather, have a one-on-one session than have to go through a video, because a lot of the questions I get asked are things they can look up online. So I always question, I'm like, well, why are they asking me? Because all I'm going to do, if I don't have the answer or only have half the answers, I'm still going to look it up somewhere online.
Google's a thing for a reason.
Exactly. Google and YouTube are like the holy grail, like of trying to figure stuff out in this industry. Or I keep saying industry and I hate it because I feel like it's a community versus industry situation. But I think it depends on where you land, like in the spectrum.
Yeah. I mean, it's both. But like you said, I mean, the
celebrity is industry. Like you're in the industry once you start reaching that celebrity perspective. I don't know. It's definitely one of those things where I think everybody has a, what's the word I'm looking for? They have an idea or a concept, but it becomes a fantasy of what they want. Like they idealize like certain aspects of it. And that's what they're striving for, is the fantasy of it and not really the reality of what they're moving through. Yeah, it's great to think ahead and think of all the things that you want, but you're going to have those other obstacles in the way. And those are the things you have to get through. Kind of like your friend with the video. The video wasn't about him. And what did people like about it? Were they just pretty girls?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was definitely something that, and it blew the girl away too. I mean, there was no rhyme or reason for it.
Yeah.
It was just there.
Well, and I think that's part of it, is aesthetic is a big part of what people will pay attention to sometimes. Like I know there's some of the people that I come across, like when, you're scrolling through like these video services, whether it's TikTok, Facebook, Instagram Reels, which is still Facebook really. You'll scroll through somebody and you find this person that you don't even know, like if you were out in the world, one, if you would come across this person, and 2, what would you think if you came across the person out in the wild? But I know there's this one, I cannot think of his name. I can see his face. He's a mailman. And
hi, Stank Booty.
Yes, he is so genuinely himself, and he's ridiculous. That's what makes him so appealing. And because he just apologized for being who he is.
Nope.
And he is just out there as who he is, and everybody loves him for it. And he's so ridiculous. Like you can't help but just be like, oh my God.
It's cringeworthy. But
it really
is. Can't stop watching it.
But he's such a happy person about who he is. Like you him for the sake that he's just a happy person,
Yep. And I will say that I do peep that fit every time he puts it, he comes up. Okay.
I mean, it's just those things where you're like, I never would have And I think that's it. So many, they're researching, they're writing stuff down, they're writing all these ideas down, and all this person went out and did was just be themselves. And I think that's sometimes where creatives have a tendency to get hung up, is they don't realize that they are their brand.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They are their brand. So either they're going to show up as who they are, or they're going to spend so much time trying to figure out who they should be. And I really think that that's the difference sometimes when it comes to the viral stuff, is if you're just putting content out there, eventually somebody's going to come across it and like it. And that was the hard thing for me at first, because I'm so used to everything that I have to do has to be done a certain way because of corporate, that when I let some of that go a little bit, and I'm just like, look, I'm going to talk, you're either going to like it or you're going to hate it. I don't care. Once I did that, it was just, there was just a shift in it. And, people start showing up a little bit more, talking a little bit more. And I think the other thing that people don't factor in, you really do have to go to social events.
Oh, yeah.
You really, but you also have to be present.
Yes.
You really have to be present and engaging in social events, because I've actually a couple of like close photographer friends that I've had conversations with them about that after going to a couple of events with them. I'm like, you really need to say goodbye to people when you leave. Even if it's just me, you need to show that you were there. You register the fact that everybody's there. Thank you for your time. It was so nice to meet you. You really have to say goodbye when you leave. But you would be surprised at the amount of people that just bolt. Or they don't talk to people throughout the day as they walk past people. I talk to people all the time. That I went to on Sunday, I met like 3 new photographers. I met one that I knew online, but I've never met in person. So I actually got to hug them and have a conversation. And that relationship building is a big part of it.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that sometimes I think people are a little apprehensive about that, which actually might be a whole other podcast, because, and I had this conversation on Sunday, how often do you meet photographers that don't like photographers? Like they don't want to have conversations with photographers. It's like they're going to give something away. And I just think it's ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, guys, I think we have talked enough about this. I think that, we kind of got the point across. And I mean, I've never had anything viral. I don't know about you.
Me neither.
We're not the cool kids yet, like Cassie is. So I think that's going to be it for this one. Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one.
See ya.
Bye, guys.